Bakemonogatari, the first installment of the hugely popular Monogatari series, is an interesting anime to try to describe to someone, because no matter how hard you try, it's nearly impossible to make it not sound like a stereotypical, cliched, really bad anime. I'll show you. Let's list some of the main features of Bakemonogatari. Let's see, it's a harem show. There are a bunch of schoolgirls ranging from grade school to high school who are all friends with one guy, the protagonist. There's a lot of fan service, including the epitome of anime trashiness, the cat girl. There's gratuitous violence, and there's a lot of weird supernatural stuff, with tentacles even. As for our protagonist, Araragi, he's in high school and kind of a loner with a too cool for school attitude, but he can be pretty badass when it counts. He's something of a pervert and is constantly sexualizing the girls around him, but he panics whenever something sexual might actually happen. And oh yeah, he's also a vampire. But the one fact that all these details completely fail to suggest, and something that seems to defy all logic, is that Bakemonogatari is good. Like, really good. Like, Bakemonogatari is my all-time favorite anime good. But how is that possible? How can a series that seems to tick every box of being a stereotypically bad anime be so good? It's a difficult question, but I'm going to try to answer that in this video. And to do that, I want to rewind a bit and talk about how I got into the Monogatari series in the first place. You see, from the time I first got into anime, I was always aware of a series called Monogatari, but I never really had any interest in it. Everything I heard about it just made it sound kind of stupid. Think back to the list I made at the beginning of this video. But a while ago, I came across a website that took scores. You gave various series on your MyAnimeList account and gave you recommendations based on what series were highly rated by people who had a similar scoring pattern to you. I decided to give it a try and was astonished to find that something like 7 of the top 10 recommendations all ended in Monogatari. Hana Monogatari, Nisemonogatari, Owari Monogatari, Neko Monogatari, Bakemonogatari. I thought, geez, how many of these shows are there? But more importantly, I realized that I must be missing something big with the Monogatari series, so I resolved then and there that I'd give the series a try and see what all the hullabaloo was about. After a bit of googling, I found that Bakemonogatari was the right place to start, and went over to Crunchyroll, loaded up the first episode, and hit play. As I recall, I don't think I blinked for the next 25 minutes. I was hooked. I couldn't take my eyes away, and not just because the opening shot was a gratuitous panty shot. I don't know what came over me. I'd never seen anything like it before. Every cut and every line just grabbed me. I was obsessed. Once the 25 minutes was over and I finally had a chance to breathe, I was stunned. I couldn't comprehend what I just saw, but I knew I needed more. So as quick as I could, I started the second episode and experienced exactly the same thing again, and again, and again, until I had seen the whole series. But what was it about this supernatural harem series that made it so completely fascinating? Well, have you ever seen those memes about the Monogatari series? They take screenshots of some of the series' more, provocative moments, coupled with phrases like deep plot, complex characters, and compelling visuals. See, I always thought they were jokes, but what I couldn't have possibly anticipated is that they were spot on. All of them. The first thing that amazed me was how slow-paced and dialogue-centered the show really was. But I didn't even notice the slow pace at first. As I described earlier, watching Bakemonogatari is a riveting experience. It's only after watching it that I sit back and think, hang on, the past 3 episodes have just been characters sitting at a bench and talking. How is it that I'm able to be so enthralled by a simple conversation? Well, it's because the animation and writing is just that good. Now, you probably don't know me or my taste in anime very well, but you should understand that praising the writing in an anime means a lot coming from me. You see, the visuals are basically the entire reason I watch anime, and in my mind, 90% of the anime I like is good despite the writing. Now, I'm willing to admit that all writing in anime isn't necessarily bad, and that it's possible that we're just losing a lot in translation, but my point is that I typically don't care for the writing in anime, but Bakemonogatari is either exceptionally well written, or at least exceptionally translated. Every conversation is an incredible back and forth of witticisms, play on words, reactions, jokes, and, on occasion, something profound. Some of the best conversations are basically manzai acts where each character has their own unique brand of bokeh that Araragi must constantly play Tsukome against. Kanbaru is a pervert who takes immense joy in making Araragi uncomfortable. Hachikuji constantly mispronounces his name and gives questionable advice, and my absolute favorite, Senjo Gahara, dispenses devastating insults with every word she says. Even the conversations that are ultimately completely inconsequential to the plot have me hanging on every word, and before you know it, you spend 20 minutes watching two people have a casual chit-chat. But the real reason these conversations are so enthralling isn't the writing, it's the animation. I did say that the main draw of any anime to me is the visuals, and this is no exception. I've said this before and I will continue to say it until my tongue falls out, but the whole reason animation exists is to create things that look unrealistic, to create impossible images that convey more and often even look better than anything we can hope to see in real life. I'm going to cut this tangent short before it gets out of hand. I can, and as my personal friends will testify, will go on for hours about this sort of thing. My point is that Bakemonogatari's visuals are even more bizarre and captivating than the writing. The lighting is harsh, the colors are constantly shifting, the faces are absurd, there are silhouette shots, there are live action shots, there are shots consisting of only text. You never know what the next shot is going to be. Here's one of my favorite examples from the very first episode.
こいつが2年前くらいに
こいつ呼ばわりはやめて
じゃあなんて呼べばいいんだよ
戦場ヶ原様
戦場ヶ原様
カタカナ発音はいただけないわちゃんと言いなさい
戦場ヶ原ちゃん
You see, they could have just animated Senjogahara poking Araragi and the joke would have still worked, but instead they used the anatomical diagram thing to turn the way it's animated itself into a joke. It's a small example, but the show is chock full of weird and wonderful visual gags like this, which is why you can't take your eyes away for a second, and why even a simple conversation between characters can be so engaging. Granted, I don't think there's much meaning to this show's unique visuals. Maybe there's some incredibly deep symbolism in these weird color palettes or blank frames that's going way over my head, but more often than not, Bakemonogatari is visually interesting, if not visually deep. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with eye candy for the sake of eye candy, especially when, in this case, it's the most delicious eye candy I've ever eaten. Between the excellent writing and incredibly engaging animation, Bakemonogatari is the most purely entertaining anime I've ever seen, and just watching it is an absolute blast. And really, that's all I should have to say about it. What better reason is there to watch something than for fun? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Bakemonogatari is super deep or artistic, though I'm sure there's plenty to pick your brain if you go looking for it. But don't misinterpret my emphasis on the fun factor as me saying that Bakemonogatari is one of those just turn your brain off and enjoy it shows. Bakemonogatari is a powerful stimulant. With the ever-changing and surprising animation and constantly bizarre and witty dialogue, just try and turn your brain off. This series will demand your complete attention. There's been times watching it where I was distracted by something and looked away from the screen for only a few seconds, and I still rewound and watched it again, because even in the span of 5 seconds, you're going to miss something worth seeing. And that's the real point I want to make here. Every second of this series is worth seeing. Maybe you saw the memes and were put off from watching it, but by choosing to ignore this series, you are doing yourself a great disservice. So I implore you to put your past judgments aside for just a minute and allow yourself to get absorbed into the weird and wacky world of a weird and wacky anime. Thanks for watching.